How does a little boy end up, alone, nameless, and hidden in a box? For more than 60 years, this mystery has haunted investigators, shaken communities, and broken the hearts of those who tried to uncover the truth. Tonight, we revisit one of America's most chilling unsolved crimes, the case known only as the boy in the box. Just relax, we'll break down every haunting detail, every disturbing clue, every twisting theory, and the questions that remain unanswered to this very day. Please subscribe and turn on bell notifications. Let's go. Philadelphia. February, 1957. A bitter winter gripped the city. Icy winds cut through the streets, rattling the skeletons of bare trees, and the neighborhood seemed unusually still. The post-war boom had painted America in bright colors: white picket fences, tidy suburban homes, families gathered around television sets. But beneath that polished image, shadows lurked, secrets that no glossy magazine could capture. The 1950s in America were a time of order and structure. Fathers went to work, mothers tended the home, children played safely on sidewalks, or so it seemed. Law enforcement was respected, but limited. Investigations depended on shoe-leather detective work, word of mouth, and fingerprints pressed onto index cards. DNA analysis, criminal databases, digital records, those were decades away. When a crime happened, it lived or died by the evidence that could be held in one's hands. In Philadelphia, industry hummed along, yet just beyond the crowded blocks of row homes and bustling markets, quiet stretches of rural land stretched outward. Overgrown lots, patches of forest, narrow dirt roads, places where the city's light seemed to fade. Forgotten corners that most people never visited, unless they had to. It was in one such lonely, neglected patch of earth that a cardboard box would soon appear. A box that contained not an object, but a tragedy. The place was not remarkable, just an unpaved road in the Fox Chase area, half hidden by brush and woods. But that isolation made it perfect for secrets. And it was here, in this cold and forgotten space, that one of America's most haunting mysteries would begin. A discovery so chilling, it would ripple through the decades, leaving behind more questions than answers. It began quietly, on a cold February day in 1957. The ground was hard, frozen by the winter chill. The air sharp, the kind that makes every breath sting your lungs. In the Fox Chase area of Philadelphia, a young man wandered through the brush. Some accounts say he was setting muskrat traps, others suggest he was simply cutting through the woods on his way home. Whatever the reason, his path took him down a narrow dirt road, one most people ignored. That's when he saw it. A discarded cardboard box, large enough to carry a small piece of furniture. Weather-beaten, damp from the melting snow. In the 1950s, abandoned items weren't unusual. People left broken appliances, junk, and trash in rural clearings all the time. And so, he walked past it, at first. But something pulled him back. Curiosity, maybe. He stepped closer, nudged the flaps open, and froze. Inside, was not junk. Not broken furniture. Not old rags. But the body of a child. He was a boy, small and fragile, no older than 4 to 6 years. Naked, wrapped only in a cheap blanket, his tiny body folded into the box as though discarded. His skin bore the signs of trauma, deep bruises, cuts, evidence of prolonged abuse. His hair had been crudely chopped, unevenly cut, as if someone had taken scissors to his head in a hurry. Even more disturbing, tiny clumps of freshly cut hair were scattered in the box, suggesting his haircut happened just before, or just after, his death. The boy's eyes were closed, his expression empty, peaceful in a way that only heightened the horror. He looked malnourished, his ribs faintly visible under his skin. His small hands and feet, dirty. The autopsy would later reveal scars, one on the ankle, another in the groin, and a surgical scar on the chest. Evidence that this child had lived a life of suffering long before his final moments. The young man who found the body panicked. Terrified of being implicated, he kept the discovery to himself, at least at first. Days later, another passerby, this time a college student, spotted the same box. He, too, hesitated, unsure whether to involve the police. But in the end, he made the call that would launch one of America's most haunting investigations. When police arrived on the scene, the horror became official. Seasoned officers, men who thought they had seen everything, were shaken. The cardboard box had once held a baby's bassinet, now it held a boy without a name. Investigators noted the blanket, cheap flannel, thin and worn. The haircut, rough and deliberate. The absence of clothing. Everything about the scene screamed secrecy, shame, and abandonment. News of the discovery spread quickly. The Philadelphia Inquirer ran headlines. Radio bulletins interrupted broadcasts. Within hours, the city, and soon the nation, was gripped by the tragedy. But along with the sorrow came the questions: who was this child? Why was he never reported missing? And how could someone do this, then simply walk away? Archival photographs, still chilling to this day, show the boy's lifeless face as forensic artists attempted to reconstruct his appearance. Newspapers printed sketches, pleading with the public, "Do you recognize this child?" They called him simply the boy in the box. A nameless, voiceless victim whose short life ended in mystery, and whose story was only just beginning. The discovery of the boy's body sent a wave of urgency through the Philadelphia Police Department. Detectives swarmed the scene, their coats pulled tight against the winter cold, flashbulbs snapping as crime scene photographers documented every angle. But almost immediately, the case revealed itself to be more complex, and more heartbreaking, than anyone could have imagined. The first step was evidence collection. Investigators dusted the cardboard box for fingerprints, hoping for a clear match. Dozens of prints were lifted, yet none could be tied to a suspect. The blanket wrapped around the boy was examined closely. It was cheap, mass-produced, with a distinctive diamond pattern. Surely someone would recognize it. Yet when detectives canvassed local stores and manufacturers, they hit a dead end. The blanket was common, sold across countless shops in the region. Another lead, gone cold. Then came the autopsy. The boy was estimated to be between 4 and 6 years old, weighing barely 30 pounds, far underweight for his age. He was malnourished, his bones fragile, his growth stunted. His stomach was empty at the time of death. But it was the scars that told a deeper story. A surgical scar ran down his chest, evidence of a procedure on his diaphragm. A crude scar marked his ankle, while another, in his groin area, raised troubling questions about abuse. His nails were neatly trimmed, unusual for a neglected child. And the haircut, freshly done, uneven, as though someone had tried to disguise his identity before, or after, his death. The cause of death was ruled blunt force trauma to the head. This was no accident. The boy had been beaten. And yet, despite the brutality, no one came forward to claim him. That was perhaps the most disturbing revelation of all. In a city of over 2 million people, no parent, no guardian, no relative reported a child missing who matched his description. The boy in the box had no name, no family searching for him, at least none willing to speak up. Detectives pursued every angle. Door-to-door inquiries stretched through Philadelphia's neighborhoods. Hospitals and schools were contacted. Orphanages and foster homes were questioned. Still, nothing. The child didn't exist in any official record that they could find. Early theories emerged. Was the boy abandoned by poor parents unable to care for him? Was he an orphan, lost in a broken system? Or was this something darker, a deliberate act of cruelty meant to erase him from the world? Clues began to trickle in, each more frustrating than the last. The cardboard box was traced back to a J.C. Penney store. It had once held a bassinet, one of 12 sold in the Philadelphia area. Detectives tracked down every single purchaser. 11 could account for their bassinets. 1 could not. But no solid evidence linked the missing 12th to the crime. The boy's haircut puzzled investigators. It was uneven, rushed. Was someone trying to change his appearance so he wouldn't be recognized? Or had it been done after death, in an attempt to disguise him further? Clumps of hair left in the box suggested haste and panic. Then there were the scars. Medical professionals confirmed the boy had undergone surgery in his short life. That meant he had once been under the care of a doctor, someone had brought him to a hospital, filled out paperwork, and signed forms. And yet no one in the medical community claimed to recognize him. How could a child receive surgery, and then simply vanish? Leads emerged, but each one crumbled. Reports of missing children across state lines were checked, but none matched. Descriptions were close, but never exact. Some thought the boy might be from another state altogether, his body dumped in Philadelphia to throw investigators off. Others suspected the boy had lived nearby, hidden in plain sight, part of a family that refused to speak his name. As weeks turned into months, frustration mounted. Detectives released a post-mortem photograph of the boy, carefully retouched to show what he might have looked like in life. Newspapers printed the image across the country with one simple plea: "Do you know this child?" Thousands of calls came in, each offering a name, a theory, a lead. And yet, every single one ended in disappointment. He was still nobody. The challenges of the 1950s loomed large. No DNA testing. No computerized databases. Investigators relied on legwork, memory, and chance. The trail that might today be illuminated by technology remained cloaked in shadows. Every clue seemed to whisper promise, then collapse into silence. Still, the case did not fade. Instead, it grew stranger. Multiple people came forward, claiming they knew the boy's identity, or how he had died. Some seemed convincing, others delusional. But with no solid evidence, police were left to chase ghosts. The investigation was alive, but fragile, every breakthrough a mirage, every lead another cruel dead end. The investigation had stalled. No name. No family. No clear leads. And yet, the boy in the box refused to be forgotten. As the years stretched on, theories began to form, some grounded in evidence, others whispered in rumor, all of them casting long shadows over an already tragic mystery. Just a short distance from where the box was found stood a foster home. To investigators, its proximity was impossible to ignore. Could the boy have come from there? Did one of the children in that house vanish, quietly replaced, erased from memory? Detectives interviewed the foster family, scouring the property for clues. They noted a bassinet similar to the kind once sold in the same J.C. Penney stores. They inspected blankets, clothes, and household items. The connections felt uncanny, too close to dismiss. But no direct evidence tied the boy to the home. Records showed no missing children, no unexplained disappearances. The family denied any involvement, and without proof, suspicion alone could not solve the case. Yet the theory lingers. Was the boy once in that foster home? Or was the discovery near its grounds nothing more than a cruel coincidence? Years later, in 2002, a woman identified only as Martha came forward with a shocking story. She claimed her parents had purchased the boy, keeping him as a sort of foster child, but in reality, he was subjected to years of abuse. According to her account, her mother beat him, starved him, and finally killed him in a fit of rage. Martha described details that seemed to match the evidence: the haircut, the abuse, even the boy's surgical scars. She insisted she had watched her mother place the body in the box and dump it in the woods. For a moment, it seemed the mystery might finally be solved. Detectives investigated Martha's claims, hoping for the breakthrough they had long awaited. But cracks quickly formed in her story. Timelines didn't match. Locations contradicted known facts. Her mental health history raised questions about her reliability. In the end, her confession, as disturbing as it was, could not be substantiated. Another lead, another cruel disappointment. Others believed the boy was never meant to be recognized because he was never officially recorded at all. Could he have been the victim of human trafficking, or sold through an illegal adoption? In this theory, the boy had no birth certificate, no school records, no doctor's files that could be traced. A child hidden from the system entirely, until his death made hiding him impossible. The haircut, the trimmed nails, the attempt to care for his body, all of it could point to someone trying to maintain appearances, to make him presentable, even as they abused and neglected him. Was he a child who had been passed around, treated as property instead of family? And if so, who was responsible? And how many others suffered the same fate, only to remain hidden? In the years that followed, detectives compared the boy's features to missing children cases across the country. Leads came in from New York, New Jersey, even as far away as the Midwest. For every possible match, hope flickered, only to fade again. Dental records, scars, and autopsy results ruled out each possibility. The boy was never conclusively identified with any known missing child. Which raised an even darker question: if no record of him existed, did that mean he had never been wanted in the first place? Was he invisible long before his life ended? Another chilling theory suggests the boy's death may not have been premeditated, but accidental. Perhaps he died from neglect, starvation, or an injury, and those responsible, fearing punishment, tried to cover it up. The hurried haircut, the blanket, the box, all signs of panic. A desperate attempt to erase him from existence, to bury a mistake rather than face justice. But whose mistake was it? A parent? A caretaker? A stranger? If this theory is true, then somewhere out there, someone lived the rest of their life knowing they had abandoned a child in a box, and never spoke a word. Theories swirl like fog around this case. Each one compelling, each one flawed. The foster home connection, suspicious, but unproven. Martha's confession, detailed, yet unreliable. Human trafficking, possible, but impossible to confirm. Nationwide missing children, none matched. Accidental death, plausible, but without evidence, just another shadow. Forensic experts who revisited the case decades later admit the boy's condition paints a grim picture. Malnourished, scarred, abused. This was not a child of safety and comfort. This was a boy who suffered. And yet, despite all efforts, not a single person came forward to claim him. Not a mother. Not a father. Not a sibling, a grandparent, a neighbor. Silence. And so the question lingers, heavier with each passing decade: if this boy was never reported missing, was he ever wanted at all? Decades passed. The photographs yellowed, the detectives grew old, and the boy in the box remained without a name. For years, the case sat cold, a haunting relic of 1957, unsolved, unfinished. But the march of time brought something the original investigators never could have imagined: science. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, forensic technology had advanced. DNA testing, once science fiction, was now reality. For the first time, investigators could go beyond fingerprints and photographs. They could look into the boy's very blood, his genetic code, the blueprint of his identity. In 1998, the boy's body was exhumed. Carefully, respectfully, investigators removed samples of bone and teeth, hoping to extract DNA. And they succeeded. For the first time in over 40 years, a fragile thread of hope appeared. Maybe, just maybe, this would finally give him back his name. But the hope was short-lived. The DNA profile was entered into national databases, compared against thousands of missing persons. The result? Nothing. The boy's DNA matched no one in the system. Once again, silence. The 2000s brought a new wave of tools: forensic genealogy. Scientists could now use DNA to trace family trees, identify relatives, and even connect distant bloodlines. Cold cases that had languished for decades were suddenly being solved. And so, attention turned once again to the boy in the box. Investigators worked with genealogists, running the boy's DNA through public databases. Names surfaced. Distant cousins. Possible relatives. But the connections were fragile, incomplete, branches of a tree with no trunk. Each lead sparked hope, but none yet yielded the definitive answer. Still, for the first time in decades, the path forward felt alive. The case also found new life in the media. Documentaries revisited the tragedy, drawing fresh eyes to the mystery. True crime shows retold the story, introducing it to a generation who hadn't even been born when the boy was found. Internet forums buzzed with theories, amateur detectives poring over the old evidence, debating the meaning of every scar, every lead, every silence. And through it all, one thing became clear: this was not just a case to be filed away. It was personal. Detectives who had once been rookies in the 1950s spent their entire careers haunted by the boy. Some, even in retirement, continued to follow every new lead, desperate to bring him justice before their time ran out. One investigator described the boy as the case that never let go. And perhaps that's why the story endures. The boy in the box is more than an unsolved crime. He is a symbol. A reminder of every nameless victim, every child who slips through the cracks, every life silenced before it could begin. His face, fragile, innocent, tragic, forces us to confront the question we'd rather avoid: how could a child be so completely forgotten? Yet, in another sense, he was not forgotten. For more than 6 decades, strangers have carried his memory, fought for his name, demanded his justice. From police officers to journalists, from genealogists to everyday people reading about him for the first time, millions have spoken his story aloud. And in that way, the boy remains alive. A voice in the silence. A face in the shadows that refuses to vanish. Science may one day give him back his name. A family tree, a missing record, a relative who never knew he existed. That day may come tomorrow, or it may never come at all. But until then, he remains who the world knows him as, the boy in the box. A child without a name. A mystery without an ending. And a wound in history that time has not healed. 60 years. More than half a century. And yet, the boy in the box remains without a name. Think about that for a moment. A child, someone's son, someone's flesh and blood, buried, investigated, re-exhumed, studied by experts, and still, no one has come forward to claim him. This is more than just a crime scene frozen in time. It is a tragedy that cuts deeper than evidence, deeper than theories. Because at its core lies a single, haunting question: how does a little boy simply vanish from the memory of the world? No schoolteacher remembered him missing from a classroom. No neighbors came forward to say, "I saw him playing outside." No family filed a report, demanding his safe return. He was erased before anyone could even ask why. That silence, that absence, may be the most chilling clue of all. Now, I want you to pause and imagine this. Imagine this boy was your brother. Your son. Your nephew. Imagine standing over a small coffin, knowing that inside lies a child whose laughter you will never hear, whose name you will never know. And then, imagine that no one, not a single person, steps forward to say, "He was mine." That is the cruel reality of the boy in the box. He is not just unidentified. He is unclaimed. And that truth wounds us far more deeply than any forensic mystery. Because justice without identity is hollow. Closure without a name is incomplete. And the boy remains a ghost, suspended between memory and oblivion. The detectives who worked the case felt this pain every day. One officer admitted, even decades later, that he still thought of the boy before he fell asleep at night. Another confessed that of all the crimes he investigated, this was the one he could never let go. Why? Because the boy was not just evidence. He was innocent itself, discarded like refuse, denied the dignity of belonging. And so the questions linger. Who was he? Where did he come from? Why did no one protect him? Why did no one claim him? Perhaps one day, DNA will untangle the secrets. Perhaps one day, his family will be revealed. But until that day comes, he remains the world's child. Yours. Mine. Ours. A small, fragile figure who reminds us of how much is lost when even a single child goes nameless. The boy in the box may have no name, but he has a story. And tonight, you have borne witness to it. You have kept his memory alive. And maybe, just maybe, one day, the weight of that memory will finally bring him justice. And so we arrive at the lingering question, the one that hangs heavy even now. Do you believe the boy in the box will ever be identified? Or will his story remain one of America's most chilling, unsolved mysteries, a name forever lost to time? Every clue we've explored tonight leads us deeper into the darkness. The foster home, the confession of Martha, the whispers of trafficking, the signs of malnutrition, each theory offers answers, yet none fit completely. Which one do you believe? Do you think investigators missed the truth hidden in plain sight, or is this a crime so carefully concealed that no one was ever meant to uncover it? I want to hear your thoughts. Drop your theories in the comments below. Who do you think the boy was? What do you think really happened in those final days before he was placed in that box? Your perspective might just bring something new to the conversation, and remember, cold cases like this are often solved not by a single clue, but by the collective attention of people who refuse to let them be forgotten. And if this story has shaken you, don't stop here. I invite you to explore more mysteries that remain unsolved. Each story connects us to the shadows of history, and the voices that were silenced. Most importantly, share this video. Share it with someone who loves true crime mysteries. Share it with someone who believes every child deserves a name, a story, a legacy. Because the more we tell his story, the less forgotten he becomes. And perhaps one day, through science, memory, and persistence, the boy in the box will finally be given the one thing he has always been denied, his identity. Until then, we remember him. We speak his story aloud. And we refuse to let him disappear into silence.